Welcome to Seth's Daily Podcast. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. And thank you guys for subscribing. We're blessed enough to have an interview with wrestler and also Breathitt County basketball coach John Noble. How are you doing today, man?
Doing good, Seth. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Thanks for being on. And you actually was Appalachian Mountain Wrestling champion.
Yeah, I held that. I guess I held that for about a year. I think maybe 2018 to 19. I think somewhere. I think that might have been the time frame, 2018 to 19.
Yeah, you actually won the title in a fatal four-way match. Which Al Snow was involved, right?
Yeah, it was the Appalachian Mountain Wrestling Hall of Fame weekend. It was part of that event. It was me, Al Snow, the Progressive Liberal, Daniel Richards, and Dan Sierra. Yeah, it was a four-way match. I ended up pinning the Progressive Liberal and winning the belt.
A lot of people in Eastern Kentucky probably enjoyed you pinning him.
It got I guess you call it a pop, as they call it in the wrestling business. Got a little bit of a pop on that. Yeah, it was cool. It was A.B. Combs Elementary, and that night they had done the Hall of Fame inductions, and we'd inducted Tracy Smothers, and we'd inducted Tracy was the following year, but that year we'd inducted Lanny Poffo and Randy Savage, the whole Poffo family as part of, and a guy named Dale Mann. So it was all people that I had watched wrestling growing up. Of course, Dale helped train me. So, and Dale had passed away. His daughter was there, but it was a pretty cool night, man.
And you actually fought one match in Impact, right?
I did. When Impact back then it was called TNA, Total Nonstop Action. This would have been, I think it opened up in June 2002, and I had a match down there at the end of October, early November of 2002. I wrestled a guy named Ashley Hudson, who was had actually been in WCW right as it was fading away. As he wrestled under the name Ozzy, I think was what he wrestled under. But he was a legit Australian, man. So outstanding wrestler. Had a really good match. Scott Armstrong was actually our referee for that match. I don't know if you're familiar with Scott Armstrong or not.
Is he in AEW right now, or is he in WWE?
No, Scott. He refereed for WWE for a long time, but he was a big time wrestler, part of the Armstrong family with Jesse James Armstrong, Road Dogg. You probably know Road Dogg, Brad Armstrong, Scott Armstrong, Steve Armstrong, Bullet Bob Armstrong was the dad. He's part of that family, but he was actually the referee for our match, my match with Ashley Hudson at TNA.
Yeah, and you've tag teamed with one of my favorite wrestlers, Shane Douglas.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, Barboursville, West Virginia. Shane Douglas and I, we beat the Heat Seekers, which they're actually the current AMW tag team champions, but we wrestled them over in Barboursville, West Virginia as part of a big festival they have over there every year. So we went over there and we beat those guys.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get back to some wrestling this summer and stuff, man, and go to some Appalachian Mountain Wrestling events.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually not wrestled in the state of Kentucky since, maybe Halloween 2019, I think. Maybe is the last time I've actually wrestled in Kentucky. Last year, I only got to wrestle in West Virginia one time with COVID and everything. It really kind of put a halt to it. But we're hoping to get back. Some companies are in Kentucky actually having shows right now, but they're still pretty limited on what they can do. Hopefully, as we get farther towards summer and actually in the summer, we get back and do some events. I know they've loosened a lot of the restrictions on the outdoor venues now. So maybe we'll go that route in terms of trying to get back to wrestling. Maybe start with the outdoor venues first.
Yeah, I seen you. The first time I seen you fight was in OVW. It was actually at North Central. I don't know if you remember that night. I think you won a tag team match, maybe.
Yeah, I can't remember the specific match, but there was I wrestled for OVW several times over the years, but we did there was a couple months there they wanted to try to get more into Eastern Kentucky, and since I'm, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, one of the better known wrestlers in Eastern Kentucky, I guess probably they wanted me to come in and do some stuff with them. But we wrestled at Knott Central, over in Whitesburg at the old Whitesburg High School, in Jackson and London, and a couple other towns actually.
Yeah, I believe I seen you wrestle for BCW as well.
BCW is actually, there's been 2 or 3 different incarnations of BCW. And that was actually where I got my start back in 1997 was in BCW before it got sold. So yeah, I wrestled there a lot, wrestled a lot of big names for those guys, held their heavyweight title, multiple times, probably for a couple of years there. So really, really, really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah. How cool was it to be in the ring, man, with Al Snow? Such a legend he is.
It was cool right up till the time that he hit me. Cool. Then it was kind of business as usual. But it was really cool, especially in the A.B. Combs building, which is where I watched wrestling as a kid. 8 and 9 years old when ICW with Randy Savage, Ronnie Garvin, all those guys used to have events in A.B. Combs. So being in that building, and then Al Snow was a guy I was a fan of his back in when he started in Smoky Mountain. So I was a big Al Snow fan. So it was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah. Did you tag team with Tracy Smothers, or did you?
Both. I tagged with him, and I've wrestled him on multiple occasions. Tracy, God rest his soul, love Tracy. He's a super man. He was a super guy. He's a great talent. A lot of people don't realize he had a motor, man. We talk a lot in sports about how athletes have motors, and Tracy was one of those guys. He actually, back in 90, I'm old, Seth. It's going to take me a minute here. Back in 98, I had my first I was a tag team wrestler starting out with me and Eddie Browning. And so most of my bookings were as a tag wrestler. So my first big singles match was with Tracy. And man, it was a great match. That singles match was probably the match that really got my name out there in Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, in that area. And I actually got a lot of bookings just off that match with Tracy.
Yeah, man. Definitely prayers for his family, man. He was a great talent.
Yeah, and he did a lot of things for a lot of guys too. If you go on, I guess you go Google and just look up Tracy Smothers quotes or quotes about Tracy Smothers, stuff like that, and you'll find everybody, man, from guys you've never heard of to guys like me who were just kind of made a little bit of headway but didn't get as far as others. Then like guys like CM Punk, Chris Hero, guys like that, man. He did a lot for all those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, man. He definitely he started out in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, I believe. Right?
He actually Tracy started out in Memphis. Tracy was actually trained by the Fabulous Ones, Steve Kerr and Stan Lane. They broke him in, trained him. He started in Memphis, and then he kind of bounced around Knoxville, Panama City, Pensacola, down that way, back and forth. Then he finally got into Atlanta. And then he got it in Smoky Mountain, and then actually made it to WWF for a while. And then from there went into ECW. And I don't know if you ever watched any of his ECW stuff when he was doing the Full-Blooded Italians gimmick.
Oh no, I've never seen him in ECW.
Yeah, you need to Google ECW Full-Blooded Italians, and it was Tracy and Tommy Rich and a guy. And Tracy was actually billed as being from Nashville, Italy. Tracy, Tommy Rich, and a guy named Little Guido, who actually was an Italian. But if you look that stuff up, man, it's tremendous. It's hilarious, and Tracy would tell us stories about ECW, about how wild ECW was.
Yeah, we've definitely appeared how crazy ECW was on the what's that one show called? It's on I forget what it's on.
The Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff about ECW on there.
Yeah, they those are good programs too. Those guys do a really good job with that program.
Yeah, I love it, man.
I'm looking forward to this season. They're doing a special on the Dynamite Kid. Dynamite Kid is probably my all-time favorite wrestler. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, obviously my favorite wrestler would probably be John Cena.
Listen, John Cena was a lot better wrestler than he gets credit for.
Did you actually fight him in OVW? Or?
Oh no, John was those guys were gone before I got to OVW. A lot of the guys that when I was in OVW, they were working more with TNA. So it was more of those guys like Jesse Goddard. I don't know if you know Jesse Goddard. He was on Big Brother. He's actually the current OVW champion, but he was in TNA for a while. guy named Big Rob Turry. He was a just humongous English wrestler. He was there, did some stuff with him. It was a good time.
Yeah, did you fight Eugene when he came to Appalachian Mountain Wrestling or no?
Not when he came to MW. I wrestled Eugene in, oh gosh, I can't remember the year. Probably, maybe 2000. I can't remember the year. Sometime in between 2012, 2015, over in Somerset we have a big fair show over there that they do every year. I wrestled him there. Yeah. There's actually two. I don't know if you remember Mackenzie Bates used to work at WYMT. He was a sports guy. Came up and filmed like a segment it wasn't for Sports Overtime. It was just for regular broadcast. But he filmed a special on me about wrestling and basketball and that was part of the match he filmed was the match with Eugene. It's on YouTube there also somewhere.
Yeah. Who fought? This guy's really talented. Chance the Prophet. That's his name, right? He fought in Impact.
Chance Prophet.
Yeah, Chance Prophet. He was very talented.
Chance is an excellent wrestler. He's still wrestling today. As I sit here and think about this, and I'm old and I've been hitting the head a lot, so I always can't remember everything. I don't think that I've ever wrestled Chance Prophet. We've been on probably 100 shows together, but I don't know that I've ever actually wrestled Chance Prophet. I can't remember.
I'm a big fan of his. Hopefully someday I can have the opportunity to interview him, man. He seems like a very interesting and nice guy.
He is a tremendous guy, man. And, and one thing about Chance is he's legit, man. He's a good dude. He's a Christian. You go to his Facebook and you'll see stuff about the Lord on there, and you'll see, there's a picture went around of him a couple of years ago praying with the kid after an event. And he's a real deal. He's legit.
Yeah. How long did he fight in Impact? I don't know if I was watching Impact then. I seen him fight on actually Appalachian Mountain Wrestling.
I don't know if Chance ever went. I think he might have had a match or two on TNA. He did some stuff with the NWA. The NWA every couple of years it comes back around, and it seems like somebody's always trying to take over the world with the NWA. But he's been with the NWA a few times. I don't know if he's been with them lately or not, but he's really good, man. I would like to see him get a chance, no pun intended.
Yeah, like him being on like AEW or something like that.
Yeah. And AEW is using a lot of trainees, but they're also using like what you would call, I guess, local talent, for lack of a better word, just guys that work indies in that area. And
some of them actually got signed.
They've signed. I'm curious. It seems like they've probably got 100 wrestlers under contract. It's crazy. It reminds me a little bit of the old WCW days when Eric Bischoff was just giving contracts to everybody. And they were paying the enhancement guys $500 pop, to come in and get beat. So it was they were giving out some pretty good deals. But AEW, they've got their 2 YouTube shows too, so they're actually using a lot of that talent.
Yeah, man, I love AEW. I actually like it better than WWE.
Well, I've not watched. Really, the only wrestling shows I watch are the 2 AEW YouTube shows, what they call AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation, just because I prefer to see the younger talent. I prefer to see the guys coming up, and and they'll put their stars on those shows every now and then. But like WWE, I've tried to watch Raw and SmackDown. I never could get into NXT. It just seemed the action was
too much indies, or
it just seems boring.
Yeah.
And
like had like 50 fans there, I believe.
Yeah, NXT too. A lot of those guys, all of them, they train in the same place. They're trained the same way. They do a lot of the same stuff. Even the men and the women both. So it just seemed kind of bland. Then WWE Raw and SmackDown, what little I've watched of them, it doesn't even look like wrestling. I mean, the stuff with Randy Orton and the Fiend and Alexa Bliss and stuff like that. It's just, it's like a really bad television show. And then AEW Dynamite, the actual show, I've watched this some, and I can get into it better. I don't know why. It's very weird. Some of their matches are really not good. but for some reason it holds my attention more. I don't know why that is, but as far as shows that I definitely try to watch, the AEW Dark and the Dark Elevation, they're YouTube, and it's because you never know who's going to pop up. I've seen guys that I know wrestling show up there and have matches, and then some guys I haven't seen in years. You know, they knock them off balls out of those guys and bring them in too. So,
have you actually ever fought with anybody at AEW?
Oh, let me think. I'm most of the guys that I have wrestled that started when I did are they're pretty much out of it by now. Usually I'm 47. So, you know, usually guys at that level, by the time they're 40, mid-late 40s, they're transitioning into office jobs or they're getting out of the business altogether. But now as far as talent goes, there's a lot of kids on there that I've been on shows with. I can't recall any of them that I've wrestled right offhand. Like I've been on shows with Arn Anderson. I've been on, met Arn Anderson a time or two. I was on the show. Jerry Lynn was in, Jerry Lynn's an agent there now. And Jerry Lynn was wrestling on the TNA show that I wrestled on. I would have to look at their roster. I'm sure there may be, but probably not very many. I'd have to see their roster just to get an idea.
Have you actually ever met Jim Cornette?
Yeah, just met Jim Cornette in. Oh no, don't strike that. I've met Jim Cornette twice. Once around 2015 at a show in Huntington, West Virginia, and then 2 years ago in Knoxville. So I've met him twice.
One of the best wrestling minds in the world. I mean, ever. One of the best wrestling minds ever.
Yeah, you know, when you mentioned John Cena there earlier in OVW, you know, when Cena and Randy Orton and Batista and all those guys were in OVW, Cornette was running OVW. He had an ownership stake in it, and he was doing the booking. And, you know, they were doing, I think Cornette was actually that Dave Meltzer Booker of the Year award there. He won that like 2 or 3 years in a row when he's in OVW.
Yeah, and he also ran Ring of Honor, I believe. He was a booker there.
He had a good run as a booker in a Ring of Honor. And, of course, what he did with Smoky Mountain, I think he's been part of the office in WCW and WWF both. So, yeah, you probably won't find very many, if any, better wrestling minds than Jim Cornette.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he does. He's got a lot of success with it, and he's passionate about it. So, you know, I think I try to listen to his podcast when I get a chance. So I think he's pretty down on the product now, but in terms of just good old fashioned old school wrestling, man, he's probably the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of bookers that don't know what they're doing in wrestling today.
Well, you know,
I mean, in the big time wrestling like WWE and stuff like that.
A lot of it, like with WWE, they don't even have bookers now. They have writers, you know, like most of their people that do their stuff, they call them scripts, I guess. But most of those people have television backgrounds. You know, they actually had, you might be too young to remember this, but they had Freddie Prinze Jr. on their writing committee. You know, Freddie Prinze Jr. was a big rom-com TV star back in late 90s. You know, he loved wrestling and he had a writing background. They actually had him on the booking committee for a while, but it's a lot of TV people, and I guess that's why the program has took such a turn towards crap. It's not good. It's not good, man. It's crazy because the wrestling has probably never had athletically this much talent based on what some of these guys can do as far as the flips and the dives and the twists, and it's the women too. You know, wrestling has probably never had this many great athletes, but it's a lot of it's not wrestling. It's just like WWE it's like I tried to watch that Fiend Randy Orton stuff, and it was, I mean,
boy,
it's Science Theater 3000 bad, and you know, so it's just hard to get into that.
Yeah, I couldn't have you on without asking you one question, man, and that is actually about how did it feel winning the regional championship, man?
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, we're gonna shift gears. It's for me, that was my 14th year as a head coach at Buckhorn. And I had played on the I didn't play, I was on the teams when Buckhorn won the regions in 88 and 89. But it had been 27 years, I think. Was it 20? Yeah, 27 years since Buckhorn had won a region. And when you go through the way, and I don't know how familiar you are with those first 14 years of mine, but that first year we might have been the worst team in the state of Kentucky. And I mean, that's legit. I'm not exaggerating. We may have been the worst team in the state of Kentucky. And it wasn't the kids' fault. They were all young and had a coach who didn't really know what he was doing. So it was really hard. We had a lot of people that just flat out told me we would never win a regional title at Buckhorn. We had other schools trying to recruit our players, telling them, you'll never win the region at Buckhorn. And then we just had so much. That team in particular had so much tragedy. We had two boys on the team that had lost brothers in auto accidents in recent years, and another kid on the team had lost his mother, and another kid that actually lost a child to Sid's death. And that group of boys have been through so much. And when you win that region, we shook hands, and it's like all 14 years of all that stuff just came back at once. And man, it brought me to tears, to be honest with you. It was incredible.
I think they should definitely do a documentary on that year, man, because that was a very special season for you guys, man. You guys definitely. There's people that told me they was like so shocked that you guys won, man. But you guys had a lot of talent on that team as well, so I don't know why people were surprised. I guess because it's a little school, I guess.
We had 150 kids in the school, in the high school. And at one point that season, Seth, we were 8-13 at one point in that season. We had there was a lot of talent on that team, but we played a really hard schedule. We'd had some bad luck, and we just could not seem to get going. And at one point we were 8-13, and we actually went up to Jackson City. Excuse me. And Jackson City actually beat us in double overtime on a 65-foot shot to beat us. And I think that was the game that made us 8-13. And this next day we came into practice and we said, we can go one of two ways. We can lay down, say it is what it is, just get through the year, or we work harder, get better, and try to win this region. And of course, that's what we ended up doing. And I've always said that team really deserves a documentary. I mean, it's the stories on that team. You cannot make that stuff up. If I told you everything that all those kids on that team had been through, you would think I was lying. And I'm not going to go into great detail because that's their stories to tell, not mine. But yeah, it would be a great documentary.
Yeah, man. I don't know, who did you guys beat in the regional championship that year? I know you guys won it on North Central's floor, but it wasn't North Central, was it?
No, we beat Perry Central.
Oh man, it's even better to beat Perry Central.
It is, it's the bigger county school, and they had actually beaten us in the district finals the week before by 15, 16 points, I think. So to bounce back like that and beat those guys, and then and they had a kid on that team that had actually been at Buckhorn for a couple of years and transferred to Perry. So there's another story. I mean, it's there's just so many stories on that team.
Yeah. How did it feel coaching during the COVID pandemic this year?
Oh man. Well, first of all, I thought the KHSAA did a great job in terms of just us being able to have a season. It's when this thing first started, I thought we'll play 5 games and it's going to get shut down. But they did a really good job. Our school, every school really, but I'm just going to speak about our school. Our school did a tremendous job of making sure we had everything we needed in terms of masks and sanitation stuff and all that, and making sure that we had the thermometers and all the paperwork necessary, because it was a chore. We'd have to wash those basketballs down before and after practice. That you hand sanitizer. You have to take temperatures every time they come in the door. You have to ask them, have you been exposed? Yada yada yada. And it's a lot of work. But it was hard, but it was worth it. For us, I don't know how familiar you were with our team this year. We had a pretty good team. We were pretty young. We were probably, I'd say, out of the top 4 or 5 teams in the region, we were probably the youngest. But we were playing pretty good ball. And then right before the district tournament started, Jalen Turner, who was probably easily one of our most important players, was diagnosed with COVID. So we didn't have him for the entire postseason. So we beat Jackson City. We lost the district finals to Wolf, and then had knocked Central down 9 at the half in the first round of the region, and then just kind of come unglued a little bit in the second half. And Wichita had a really good team, senior dominated team, and of course, BB. I love BB King. He's one of my favorite people. But of course, came back and beat us, and to not have Jalen for that was hard. That breaks my heart for him. And I know how definitely him and his family as well. That was hard for all of us, but it was really out of anybody's control.
Is Riverside still in your guys' district or no?
No, they're trying to build their program back. They ended up this year having a team, but really they had so few kids that they had to go co-ed, which was really wild. I'd never seen co-ed high school basketball before, but they had boys and girls on their team, and they played several games. I think they might have even won a game with against boys teams. So hopefully they can get both those boys and girls programs back off the ground. Riverside's a special place. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but it's a tiny place. My mom actually went to school there and my aunts went to school there for a number of years. But they've just, kind of like a lot of small independent schools, really struggle financially.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on, man. And you have a good night, and God bless.
Hey, God bless you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks for being on, buddy.
Anytime.
This has been the interview with Rassler and Breathitt County basketball coach John Noble. I want to thank him for doing the interview. I want to thank you guys for subscribing. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. Y'all have a good night, and God bless.